Over the years, I must have taken thousands of photos from the air. I'm always looking for a dramatic landscape. And a pretty sunset is always a pleasure, especially from the air. Sometimes I find a strange view of the earth below that looks just like an abstract painting. And if I'm quick enough, I can catch a shot of another flyer, shooting by in the other direction, just above the cotton cloudscape. I take my photography pretty seriously, and the last few images are some of my better photos. But looking back, I find that many of my personal favorites are some of my more casual pictures. Here are some photos that aren't about the pretty view outside the window, but are special to me because they include the odds and ends of my surroundings as well. Even an accidental photo can be powerful and recall the feelings and sensations of piloting in a way a picture taken more carefully might not. Taken from the air or the ground, pictures that include the plane itself seem to say more. I look at this picture and I think, this is the plane I flew to this favorite place of mine. I can hear the sudden quiet once I stop the engine, and then feel myself pulling the hard metal handle to open the door. Or this time, here I am at my home airport, sitting 2 feet above the ground now, feeling the vibration of wheels rolling on the pavement as I get ready to depart. And well along in flight now, at a precarious 15,000 feet, I'm granted a spectacular view that's framed by the structure of the tiny plane that carries me. Now, while in the same moment, a slight look down shows the little world of the cabin with my own 2 feet snug on the cabin floor. Well, I'm snug, and maybe even a little smug, flying along at 130 knots. I can't help but enjoy the gadgets and goodies that helped me guide this ride through space. Now, the GPS is great, but I must remember to be careful using it. This fascinating little screen can be a big distraction. It's better to keep my eyes outside, in case the landscape suddenly gets too near. It can come up pretty quickly when you're moving along at 3 miles per minute. Fortunately, mountains don't just jump out at you on their own. If they're coming close, well, as the pilot, that's my choice. It's good to look at them, just don't touch them. Not with the airplane anyway. The cockpit seems to be a constant and protected place, but it's not really that unchanging or isolated. The weather gets wet, and the cabin stays mostly dry, except where the thermometer goes through the windscreen and lets in the rain, or where the door and the window seals leak and let in the cold and the wind. Oh well, never mind. The laws of physics seem to bend here in the cockpit. Take an ordinary rainbow, for example. You might see a rainbow looking just like this from the ground. But from the ground, you never do get to see the whole rainbow, not the whole left side or the whole right side. And most certainly, not the whole bottom side either. The day ends for everyone, but the day is longer up here. In the cockpit, magical place that it is, the sun stays up longer than it does on the ground. Though Earth fades into shadow, sunset lingers here. It's time to switch on the nav lights and turn the plane into my very own flashing UFO in the night sky. Twilight is a time of beautiful, muted colors in the cockpit. The cabin and the instrument panel glow soft red, while outside, mountains turn purple and the eastern sky goes to dark violet. Now full on night, the cockpit lights are dimmed, but city street lamps are so bright that they illuminate the cabin too. The underside of the wings are lit with reflections of the moving lights below. Flying seasons are also different than ground seasons. On Earth, seasons change with the calendar, but in the plane, they also change with the altitude. Fall becomes winter as you climb, and sure enough, the cabin freezes too, since the heater of my small plane never seems to keep up. Leaving high mountains and cold air behind, winter changes quickly to summer when we make the descent down into low deserts. The cabin can get plenty warm because there's no air conditioning except for the big fan up front. Summer in California means forest fires. In some years, they're all over the place and can go on non-stop for months. Fires on the ground leads to smoke in the air that can spread for 100 miles. These fires bring the smell of smoke into the cabin and cause an eerie change in the light as the sun becomes orange and the world turns shades of sepia. Gravity is different here too, and seems to follow new rules in the cockpit. So what if I point a wing at the ground? I'm still not going to fall over to one side. Straight and level flight is just not required. Let the world outside flop around all at once. Gravity in the plane still just keeps pointing down through my own seat. Let Earth, clouds, or blue sky fill the windscreen however they choose. Save the level, steady horizon for those who are driving on the interstate below. Now I often fly solo, though the Cardinal can carry 4. I may arrive somewhere alone, but there are usually other pilots to talk to wherever I go. The company of planes and pilots is great fun. I get to wait in line with colorful characters like these before I take off. Alone in the plane may not mean alone in the sky. Flying home from Mammoth, I chatted on the radio with the pilot of this Piper for an hour or so until we went our separate ways. One day, I was hanging out in Kernville, and I met the pilot of this Christen Eagle while I was having lunch at the airport there. It turned out that he was also based in Camarillo, so he kept me company on the way home. He flew so close, we almost didn't need the radio to talk. It's a good thing that he's a professional pilot. I do have co-pilots and passengers now and then. This is my friend Dave, who I've known since I was a teenager. He got his pilot's license first and inspired me to get mine soon after. Sometimes I get stowaways for company too. That's okay, just so long as it's not bumblebees or spiders. I hate those. Though the cockpit is a shelter and a haven of sorts, it does indeed open wide to the outside world. Even if I'm just stopping for a few minutes, I like to open the door so I can really feel like I'm here. I like to smell the sage and the pines and see the tire tracks in the sandy dirt. Sometimes I even get out of the plane for a few hours and look around. This is the Chicken Strip in Death Valley National Park. There was once a Hero Strip nearby, but the Park Service shut that down. They said it was too dangerous, and they were probably right. There are some warm springs and people camping nearby, but this is a desert wilderness about 100 miles from anywhere. It's a nice place to visit and all, but the day's nearly over and it's time to go home. I sure hope the engine starts okay. As much as I would like to linger, I can't take off here after it gets too dark. But I did bring camping gear and emergency supplies just in case. Still, I'm not a big fan of sleeping on the ground, so I'm out of here. Well, after a day in the boonies, the engine did start just fine, so now I'm airborne and on my way home after another great day of flying and taking pictures. This flight home, like many of my favorite day trips, sees the sun set behind the southern Sierra. With dusky reflections off my wing, I'm glad part of the plane made it into the photo too. Thanks for sharing these memories with me. So long for now. Cardinal 220, over and out.